Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome everyone to Book Review. The task of a leader is to get his people from where they are to where they haven't seen. In the last episode, we were talking about a very exciting book, The Principles of Leadership, by Yusuf al-Huzayn. It's translated, and this is the Arabic version, was written by Yusuf al-Huzayn. The last time, we talked about the characteristics of a leader. We said a leader inspires others. A leader does things and not talk about things. A leader develops followers. A leader knows how to do the job. A leader gives obligations. A leader takes responsibility. A leader overcomes obstacles. These are the characteristics of leadership that we talked about the last time. We also talked about the difference between a manager and a leader. We were joined and proud to be joined with today by Professor Sayyid Al-Khouli. Professor Sayyid Al-Khouli is the head and the chairman of the Department of Management, Faculty of Commerce, Ain Shams University. Professor, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Professor, the last time we stopped at the very important and the core of the book. How can the Arab countries reform leaders? Or how can we reform leadership in the Arab countries? This is where we stopped, and this is our start today, inshallah. So can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Last time we did talk about the principle and definitions and so on, and how to develop leader. And you ended the last episode with leader is born or made, right? And there is a lot of people, they say, with this school of leader is born. And there is another perspective, leader is developed. Let me talk about 7 principles of how to develop a leader anywhere in the world.
7 principles.
7 principles.
Okay.
Let's start one principle at a time, if you allow me.
It's my pleasure.
For Arab leaders, for promised leader, anywhere in the world, not only in Arab world. Number 1, he or she must have the time, 2 or 3 years, to make measurable financial and the cultural progress. If we bring any person who can make a change in the economy of his or her people, it's a leader. That's number 1 principle.
Financial and?
Financial and the economical development.
Okay.
Right? I am your follower. I am your follower. And I believe in you as my leader. Right? But I have a family to feed. Right?
Okay.
That's economic or not?
Yeah,
That's
sure.
economic or not?
Yeah, definitely.
I have kids to send them to school. That's economical. So a leader who have measurable financial means economical progress and making a cultural progress. We are in the era of globalization. Globalization means what? A leader is not isolated from the world. So we have to follow the upward trend of globalization.
Okay.
So if you stay still and you say, that is my culture, I will not go beyond the boundary of my culture, it means it will be a gap between the rest of the world and yourself. And the more you stick with it, the gap will increase and increase.
But in the book,
Today,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. In the book, he talks about doing that with putting into mind our Islamic background, and
I'm coming to it.
How can we really go and deal with the rest of the world while we are protecting our standards and our Islamic background?
I always say to my students, don't ever compromise your values. Your values is your values. Remember, what is the first value in Islam? What is the first message of God to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? What's the first message? What's the first verses? What is? Read. God told the Prophet Muhammad, read. Prophet Muhammad says, I can't read. So he's what? He's an illiterate person. Ummi, right? I can't read. And that's the miracle of Islam. He sent the big message to the rest of the world. It's all over. Islam, it's all over the world right now. All over. I've been in the States. I lived in the States for about 14, 15 years. And I saw Islam over there. But I didn't see it here. I am moving in Europe in the last few years where I have
It's sad.
joint
What
projects.
you're saying is really
Joint projects with different universities in Europe, in Britain, in Greece, in Italy, in Germany, and so on. And there is a lot of Muslim community over there. And you stick to their values in where? In the most advanced country in the world. So here I say one thing. Please don't misunderstand me or don't let the audience misunderstand me. The reviewer, I am sticking with my values. Don't ever compromise your values. And your values is built on what? The first message from God is for our society, for his Prophet Muhammad, is read. Read means what? I will give you an expression we learned in the States. This says what? Readers are leaders.
readers are leaders.
Readers are leaders.
So this
The nation of
this shows
Islam.
the importance of knowledge.
The nation of Islam, please, how many of us read these days? Answer this. So values is very important. I remember 25 years ago, I wrote an article which is published in the States regarding our
But
values.
I don't understand what's the relationship between reading and not being affected by globalization.
Readers are leaders.
Okay.
You can't have a leader who have no knowledge. And we call it knowledge management. Knowledge means what? You should be able to keep up with the development of the rest of the world.
Okay, I understand.
So the more you read,
I agree with you.
the more you read, the more you broaden your mind. The more you expose to different cultures.
Okay,
And you can impose your culture, but respect other cultures.
exactly. So
That is the first-
You're saying we have to know other cultures while sticking to our values.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm saying it very loud and clear. Don't ever compromise your values.
Okay.
Stick with your values.
Okay.
And in Islam, we have a plenty of values. Remember, values, as I told you, honesty. Honesty. Trust. Is that a value of Islam or not?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay? And people and leader should stick with these values. So honesty means what? I'm a leader. When I say something to my people, I should deliver.
Okay.
No matter what happened. So it's what? Honesty. Trust. Is that value of Islam or not?
Absolutely.
So remember in the last episode I mentioned we are a talker, not a doer.
Yeah, that's the second characteristic of a leader.
Talker means what? We talk a lot. But in reality, do we do? I bet you anywhere in the world, if we apply and stick to our Islamic principles and our Islamic values, whether the leader or the follower will be number one in nowhere.
Inshallah.
The nation of Islam have the guidance, the principle. But do we implement this principle in the reality, in the way we work? Yes? I don't want to say yes or no.
Unfortunately-
I am talking about reality.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Reality
no,
means what?
In a lot of
Is that reflect
yeah.
our values? I am not talking about a religious perspective here. No, I am talking about the values of Islam.
Okay.
If we really stick to the value of Islam, which started with the first message, is knowledge management. Read.
Okay.
Read.
So,
Remember that.
okay.
The second
The
principle,
second one.
a leader must know the current strategy
So the first one is financial and economic change.
and the culture.
And
Progress.
culture. Okay,
Progress.
Okay.
That's first principle.
Okay.
Second principle, a leader when he comes, leader doesn't live forever. People die, people overthrow, whatever. So when he comes, he must understand what's going on. What's the current strategy? Where we are going? And remember, I will always say another saying. We are not reinventing the wheels. The wheels is already there, but we develop in terms of shape, of colors, and so on. So you have to know exactly what's the current strategy, what's the current goals, what's the current challenge, and be able to follow and progress whatever we have. Not reinventing the wheel, not destroying everything, and you say to yourself, we'll start from all over again. That's not.
So coping with the current strategies around you, that's the second principle.
The third principle, we have to be able to set priorities. That's a leader should be able.
Set priorities.
Priorities is very important.
Okay.
What's the most important things we should start? What's the next in priority, and so on. So tell me, people, they say strategic plan and so on, and you have to wait after 5 years.
Okay.
Set priorities for your people and be able to give your follower the fruits of whatever you are doing. Don't tell them, wait for 5-10 years and the promising land. No.
Okay.
So you have to set priorities. That is the third principle of leader.
Can we leave the fourth one after the break? Because we have
Sure.
to take a short break now. Dear brothers and sisters, we will take a short break and we will be right back. So stay tuned to Book Review. Welcome back. This is Book Review. We're talking about the principles of leadership. We're joined and proud to be joined by Professor Sayyid Al-Khuli. Professor, welcome back.
Thank you.
Professor, before the break, we talked about the principles that we should take or that the Arab countries should take to reform leadership in the Arab countries. We talked about financial and economical and cultural change, the first principle, and the second one, realizing current strategies, and the third one, setting priorities. What is the fourth one?
The fourth one, which is basically, is to be able to reform a new structure. Right? You're coming from transition. You have to be able to decide about the new organizational or country architecture. That's very important.
Being able to reform
The architecture of your
the
society.
architecture of your society. What do you mean by that?
You talked about values. Integrate your values, Islamic values, if you want to name it, in all different architecture of your organization or in your country. And you follow the rules of these values. So if you talk about honesty, we have to define what honesty means, what's task based on honesty. All of this has to be, that's the new architecture. The fifth principle, we have to build personal credibility and momentum for the people. And here what we mention is very much related how to empower people. Remember, you started your interview today talking about the book in the first episode, talking about change. And if you want to do change, it always there is a resistance to change. Rule number one, in order to overcome this resistance of change,
You have to inspire others.
you have to inspire others, you have to keep the momentum of people in order to perform the change.
So they have to trust you, and you have to be credible
Absolutely.
in order for them to follow
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. And that's, you have to be able to empower people.
Empower people.
Empower people.
Okay.
Empower people. Get the people involved.
But I guess,
Involved in the decision-making process. I'm sorry.
I guess, Professor, building personal credibility, this is a lot, it's there in a lot of the Arab countries. So I think this is not one of the ways, or I don't understand how it is a way to reform leadership within the Arab world, because a lot of the leaders currently there in a lot of the Arab countries already have credibility, like people trust them, kind of.
You think
Or
so?
d-
So what happened to Mubarak? He was a leader, right?
That's what I wanted to
What
listen
happened?
from you.
What happened to Saddam Hussein? He was a
Okay.
leader.
Okay.
What happened to Gaddafi? He was a leader for 40 years, right?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay.
So credibility here, it means we can't enforce me. You're talking about Islam,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But Islam, when we talk about Islam, talk about the credibility of
At
Umar
least,
ibn al-Khattab.
at least we feel they have credibility through the media. Like they show how people are following them, and maybe here he means building credibility actually in people, not only on the media. Or don't you agree with me?
The personal credibility means whether you are alive or not, the credibility still exists. When you talk about values of justice, you talk about whom? Umar ibn Khattab, right? Yes? Until
Yeah.
this point
Exactly.
of time.
Definitely.
That is a value. He translates justice in the way he governed,
Okay.
right? And there is many examples. For his own son, he bet one Christian person or Jewish person, I don't remember the story. Umar ibn Khattab, justice, values, he brought the other guy. You have to do the same for my son,
Exactly.
Right?
In the very known story.
right?
Yeah.
That is what?
He
That's-
made his son
That's
do-
credibility.
Okay.
That is what? Justice. Justice means it's for all,
Okay.
not for myself and my family only,
Okay.
and for the rest of the people, no. Not for my group and the rest of the people, no. No, that is not justice. So justice, it has to be build the credibility of these values across all your different followers, regardless of their race, I mentioned, of their gender, and so on. That is
The fifth.
the fifth one.
Okay.
Sixth one, in the right to transform entity. Remember, we mentioned, we talk, and we talk about Islam.
Right to transform
Right?
entity.
Earn right to transform entity.
Okay.
Entity means what? We say living by examples. Living by example. Why we talk about Malaysia? Malaysia? Why? It's an Islamic country,
Why?
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Why? That's a question. Why? Why we talk about Turkey? They are Islamic countries, right? They became a different entity. Entity means what? In the global marketplace, in the globalization, we believe, the whole world believe in what? In how to perform, how to overcome obstacle. Malaysia, for example, it was a bankrupted country 40 years ago.
Subhanallah.
Now it's one of the major horses in the economic world.
Okay.
Why is that? They integrated their principle, Islamic principle, right? And they are far away from Kaaba, from Azhar, and so on, right?
And they were able to transform their entity.
Transform their entity, their values, to build entity. Build on what? On work. Build on
Production.
production. Build on productivity. Build on economical foundation. Build on economical pillars in order to overcome whatever obstacles. And the core of their philosophy is Islamic values. And look what happened. The whole world talking about Malaysia. And the way they developed, they came up from nothing and they became one of the leading nations in developing countries. So that is the role of leadership. Let me tell you an example or a saying, we used to say it. All it takes is one person. One person, he can make a change.
One person can make a change.
One person can make a change. And our biggest example for that, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, he made the change. One person, with the help of God. Remember when I told you inside every one of us.
And he had everyone opposing him.
Absolutely. And he became what? A leader. Right?
The greatest leader ever.
Absolutely. What's the message of Prophet Muhammad? It's based on values. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. What's مكارم الأخلاق? That's the core values. We really focus in our core values, in the way we govern, in the way we do business. That's a question mark. And I let the audience and the viewers really go back and put question mark.
Exactly, I agree with you.
Reality,
we have to.
For reality, and I call it the difference between myths and reality. The difference between talk and do in our Islamic nation.
I agree with you, definitely. It's important to have knowledge and implement the knowledge, and knowledge follows actions, and actions should be affected by knowledge. And the Prophet ﷺ was an example to us. He implemented all the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was the greatest leader ever, alayhi salatu wassalam. I want you to give us the 7th principle.
The last principle,
okay.
Number 7. A leader, you remember when I talked to you last episode about narrow-minded versus broad-minded.
Okay.
Remember when I told you between single opinion and shared opinion.
Okay.
And we take it from the perspective of Islam. Perspective of Islam tells us what?
Shura.
If you want to make a decision,
you have to take
Amruhum Shura. Take the other people.
Take the decisions of other Muslims.
There is no only one way. That's the 7th principle.
Scholars.
There is no one way only to manage any transition, to manage any country, whether it's Arab. Okay, there is always several ways. And take this for the current situation in Egypt, in Syria. We always look in one perspective. As I say, it's one-way solution.
So we can say taking the advice of others, or what?
Absolutely.
Okay. What can we call it? The 7th
we can
principle?
call it.
Or what does he call it in the book?
Creativity.
Okay.
Creativity.
He calls it
creativity.
Creativity.
Be creative.
Okay.
Look for different solutions, for different alternatives, for different avenues.
So these 7 principles are there, or he advises the reform of leadership in the Arab countries to be through these 7 principles.
Absolutely.
Okay. Financial and economic and cultural changes, realizing the current strategies around them or around the Arab worlds, setting priorities, being able to reform the society or the architecture of the society, build personal credibility, transform entity, and lastly, creation creating or being creative, right? At the end of the episode, I would like you to give us from your experience, how can we assess leaders, or are there steps or their methodology to assess leaders?
A leader who should develop what we call it as win-win strategy. You are a leader.
Win-win strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Win, and your follower win.
Okay.
If we have this kind of strategy,
then we'll have a success.
The leader will be happy.
And
he will stay in his position, leadership position, and the society will be happy. And the whole nation, it will be happy. And it will become what? A developer and developing country. And as I mentioned, the Malaysian
and the Turkish.
And the Turkish. is the leader of Malaysian, Mahathir Mohamad. He only gains the fruits, but all Malaysian people, right? So win-win strategy, that is the strategy of Islam. Islam is built on win strategy.
Dr. Sayed Al-Khouri, the chairman of the Department of Management, Faculty of Commerce, Ain Shams University, I would like to thank you very much. Thank you for sharing with us your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you very much, sir.
You're very welcome, anytime.
I would like to thank you too, brothers and sisters in Islam, for watching this very exciting episode of Book Review, our book for today with the principles of leadership. And this was the second episode where we're reviewing this book. And if you missed the first episode, I would like to advise you to watch it on YouTube. Till I meet you in the next episode, I leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.